Good day to you and welcome to the Stade de France on a blustery and overcast Parisian evening for this 9th stop of the Samsung Diamond League and the penultimate stop for European competitors before those Continental Championships kick off in Barcelona, now just 11 days away. Paris, of course, is one of the great jewels of Northern Europe, and whichever way you look at the French capital, be it the arts, the sciences, sport, or indeed just café society, it's done well here. The architecture's not bad either, and this wonderful arena, the Stade de France, on the northern perimeter of the city, hosts many of the world's very best runners, jumpers and throwers this evening. Amongst them, the quickest man ever, Usain Bolt, who won over 100 metres in the final race of the evening, who will run in that final race of the evening. His compatriot Asafa Powell goes up against him. They share the world #1 spot. 24 degrees, although it's blustering, it really doesn't feel that warm, I can tell you. The track programme about to get underway. It's already well underway on the infield, with one or two field events coming to their conclusion. And of course, it's all about those diamonds that are up for grabs at the end of the season. Each discipline, and every discipline represented, remember, in this 14-meeting series, receives $40,000. Well, that's what goes to the winner.
Start list then for our very first event. Rennie Quo of Trinidad, it's the men's 400, of course. Michael Bingham of Great Britain is in lane 2. Jonathan Borlée of Belgium in 3. Jeremy Warner, the Olympic champion of the USA, or former Olympic champion, in 4. Leslie Jones of France, the French record holder. Jermaine Gonzalez of Jamaica. Greg Nixon, the American champion, and David Neville of the USA. Rennie Quo had a really excellent World Championships last year. Bronze medal in the final in Berlin. World Junior Champion back in 2006, still just 22 years of age. Great Britain hoping that Michael Bingham can head off to Barcelona with the likes of Martin Rooney, heading for individual medals as well as, of course, in the 4x400 relay. And indeed Belgium, well, they've got the two twins, Jonathan and Kevin. Jonathan here tonight, he's recently run under 45 seconds, 44.94. He's inside Jeremy Warner, former Olympic champion. Well, he says he's starting to come back to his best. That remains to be seen. He's still looked a little ragged. He's had all sorts of injury problems this year after surgery last year. There'll be a big cheer here in Paris for Leslie Jones, the French record holder. 45.25 this year, but he loves this track here in Paris. Outside him from Jamaica, Jermaine Gonzalez, one of the quickest men in the world this year. Hasn't quite found the consistency yet that I think he'll want. Neither is this man here. This is Greg Nixon. Only Warner has gone quicker than him. He did win the American Championships when Warner pulled up after a bit of a hip flexor problem. And then David Neville, the Olympic bronze medalist, on the outside. So a good race to get us underway here. Warner, of course, expected to win, but that inconsistency that we've all witnessed over the past couple of years still dogs him. He was so dominant, wasn't he, for a while? I suspect, though, unless the likes of Greg Nixon and perhaps Gonzalez can rediscover some of their best form of the season, Warner should be able to handle this field. Watch out for Borlée and Bingham. The Europeans, of course, with Jones, will have their own battle here. Borlée's in 3 inside Warner. You like that? Warner taking a long time to settle. The getaway safely first time, the men's 400, with Warner starting pretty quickly, already up on Leslie Jones. But of course, Jones always finishes fast, and they'll head into a little bit of a stiff breeze down that back straight. Warner trying to get through this first 200 quickly. Gonzalez is going well. Nixon has started terribly in lane 7. But it's here where the action is. Borlée trying to get back on terms with Warner, but he's looking as though he's come into the home straight with only Gonzalez close to him. Gonzalez in the blue. In 6, it's Warner and Gonzalez together. And the tall Jamaican really pushing Warner. Now here's where sometimes he falters in the home straight, Warner. But he's looking good tonight. Gonzalez trying to get back on terms. He's closing the gap. Will he get there quickly enough? Warner hangs on. Gonzalez takes second from Borlée in third. 44.50. Well, he says I'm getting better. It's coming in increments. He wants to get close to 44 seconds. It is the fastest in the world this year. For me, he still looks as though he's missing that training which he said he lost with his injuries at the beginning of the year. Maybe we're going to have to wait another 3 or 4 weeks before we see the best of Jeremy Warren.
Well, Steve, that's by far, for me, the best Warren has looked this year. Much stronger through the last 100 metres. He noticeably, visibly kicked hard with about 130, 140 to go, and he maintained that form well. All credit to Gonzalez there in the blue for coming back at him really strongly down the home straight. But Warner, well, he's been searching and searching, frankly, for the last couple of seasons for his form of days of old. But I think there's something close to it now. He's only a couple of strides away there from the low 44s that he used to churn out on a regular basis. That's a really encouraging run, as you say.
Yeah, when he was at his best, he used to really come around that top bend, didn't he, and open up, and he came into home straight kind of dominant and then maintain, and he doesn't have that advantage now, so he has to really work hard, like I said, hold the form well, which he does. Gonzalez did put him under pressure, but not quite enough, and he's looking good here, a little more relaxed than perhaps we've seen him. Good run from Gonzalez, though. I said he wanted to start to find some consistency. Commonwealth bronze medalist, and he may well be rewarded with a quick time here. Wasn't far away, was he, from our winner here in the first event?
Well, a really encouraging run from Borley, too, in third place. A national record for the Belgium in third, 44.77. That was some race, and it suggests conditions down there on track level are actually very good. It's quite blustery up here high in the stands. Well, there's the scene in the arena, which has been gradually filling, steadily filling over the last hour or so. The pole vault, by the way, is well underway, and some rather dramatic news from that one, which we'll bring you shortly.
So, final results. Warren that time rounding down to 44.49, fastest in the world this year, and indeed a personal best for Jermaine Gonzalez. And Borley running very well indeed. He's going to perhaps now look as though the favourite, or could be the favourite, for the European Championships coming up shortly in Barcelona. Those are the points that have been accumulated so far in the diamond race over 400. Warren are well ahead. Well, there's a familiar face, Tim, Eunice Barber, who their suggestions this could well be her last competition here in Paris. She's trying to qualify for the European Championships in Barcelona. Not sure what sort of shape she's in.
Yes, that's right. She's doesn't look in the best of shape for me. When she was in her prime, she was an astonishing athlete, was Eunice Barber. But now 35 years old, and frankly, we've hardly seen her for the last 2 or 3 years. Good height there. You never lose it, do you? Still a wonderful technician. Barbara at her best is a 7-metre jumper, of course. 6:41, not a bad opener. Now this is dramatic. This is Steve Hooker, third attempt at 5 metres 40. And as you can see, the Australian, who in his last 3 competitions has cleared 5:80, whose season was gradually rounding into good form, having a bit of a disaster in the Stade de France here tonight, and what a disappointment. He's up against Renaud Lavillenie, who is, of course, passing this height, the world #1, who is unbeaten this year, the Frenchman, the current French darling, because Tamgo has had to pull out of the triple jump tonight. Steve, that's a real blow to Steve Hooker, who's normally so consistent.
And he has been vaulting better, and I think you're going to see here there was nothing wrong with the vault as such. It was just the high point, and it was he was miles over this, miles over it, and he comes down and just catches it. He doesn't have the penetration over the bar, and that's something which he's struggled with. He said, I think I've been correcting it. You're right, Tim, he's been better in the last 3 competitions after a couple of no heights early in the season. It's his birthday today, by the way. He's 28. He's not enjoying it at all. He said, that is a terrible performance there from Steve Hooker again, and he really has to get some consistency again. This women's long jump was shaping up to be a really tight competition. Reese from the USA, Brittany Reese, world champion, was so dominant last year. Women's long jump really finding new levels this year in terms of the amount of women who are jumping around the 697 meter mark. As we were saying, that breeze is just kind of moving around a little bit. They're right tucked in the home straight here under this stand.
This is Clavier of France. He's the French #4, and he too having real trouble. That's at 5.60. He only cleared 5.40 at the second attempt. I say Clavier, that's Menil. Apologies. That's Menil there, twice World Championship silver medalist. And Menil, who got over 5.40 at the second attempt, clearing 5.60 there, failing 5.60 there. 2 attempts to go, of course, but clearly the blustery conditions are causing a few problems. There's been an awful lot of men failing their opening height at 5.40 and getting over the second time, about 6 men. Obviously, Menil was one of them, and 5.60, only one man over so far. Well, there's the main man, Usain Bolt, who takes part in the final race of the evening and one of the great clashes of the season. His first dust-up with Asafa Powell. Seems kind of ironic that they come from the same little island in the Caribbean.
I think we're going to see a few shots of him tonight. He's introduced to the crowd a little earlier. I think he was surprised when he walked out not to find this stadium full, and I'm a little surprised there's not more people here, given the fact that we're going to see this great clash tonight. Normally Paris really does sell out, and maybe we'll get a few more coming because perhaps they've had a look at the timetable and know he's on right at the very end.
There's the scene.
Well, we've got an interesting event now with this European Championships, of course, beginning just over a week's time in Barcelona. A chance for the best of Europe's relay teams to have a run out here. Great Britain, France, Italy and Poland. Great Britain quartet in lane 3. Jeffrey Nwalba-Logan will hand to Craig Pickering, then Marlon Devonish and Mark Lewis Francis. A lot of experience in the team, but also introducing the likes of Nwalba-Logan here to an opportunity for him. Christian Malcolm's out with the squad as well, but it's Nwalba-Logan who's been given the job on the first leg here. Now the French team, I think, are going to be very good here, not only tonight but in Barcelona. Pognon, Christophe Lemaitre, the man who has run under 10 seconds, we'll be seeing in the 100 later on, and Banjok will bring them home. Strong Italian team, Donati, Collio, De Gregorio, Tomasiccio, and then in lane 5 it will be Poland. And teams don't get too many opportunities to be tested at this sort of level, so really important that they use this chance. But this French team, they've also got a young junior who's out of the World Juniors, Jimmy Vicou, who's recently run 10.17, who they say they will bring back. They'll fly him back from the World Juniors to slot into this team, probably on the 3rd leg. So I suspect that Pognon, Lemaitre, who run the back straight, and then Banjok will stay with Pierre-Alexis Pesonneau, who's on the top bend. Well, he's got a chance to tell the selectors, well, if it goes well tonight, keep me in. So the French in 4, Great Britain inside them in 3, Italy in 5, Poland 6. Long hold from the starter, but they get away safely. Nwalba-Logan of Great Britain has started quickly up on Pognon. Now the French are starting to have a bit of problem. That's not going well for them. Lemaitre will get the bat now, he won. That's a terrible changeover, and France are out of it. So Great Britain up against Italy, who've started well. Now will they get the baton round safely here? Marlon Devonish takes it from Craig Pickering. He's got a bit. Italy perhaps still with the slight lead with Gregorio on the top bend. Devonish trying to get on terms, will give it to Mark Lewis Francis, and it's going to be very tight. This Italians with a slight advantage. Tomasiccio coming home, but Mark Lewis Francis running him down. Great Britain are going to take this one, perhaps right on the line. Italy fighting back, and MLF crosses the line. We're in a time of 38.70. It's not super fast, and I'm not sure that any of the teams had too much to shout about there, but it'll be the French who look at that and say, missed opportunity. Missed baton, in fact.
Exactly what you don't need, isn't it? 10 or 12 days before those European Championships get underway for the French squad, in front of the home crowd too. That brought the stadium to silence pretty abruptly. It's a solid enough performance from the British quartet. They got the baton round well, each of the changeovers pretty good. And Well, if you look at the last 10-15 years of British sprint relay consistency, it's been a little bit lacking. They can be well pleased with that. Plenty of experience in that team too, Steve, of course, with Devonish and Marc-Louis Francis on the final two legs. And I think Mark here actually did take over a metre or so down. It gradually runs down the Italian Tomasicchio there, wins it by a short metre. Well, Villani in this pole vault, of course, the darling of France here at his opening height, and that's 5.60. Pops over it, no trouble at all. He's only the second man to go clear. The other Czech, Michal Balna. I can tell you that no less than 9 men have failed their first attempt at this height. If you've just joined us, well, shock news that Steve Hooker failing his opening height of 5.40, and as you pointed out, Steve, Hooker was probably about 2/3 of a metre over the bar, but came down the top of it.
An event where you can see the groove that La Villani is in. He's won all of his competitions, Tim was saying, a superb form, and he knows what's going to happen when he comes down that runway with the pole. He knows what's going to happen. At the minute, I'm not sure Hooker knows quite what's going to happen, and he's somehow got to get things back together again. He said he's more settled. Of course, Hooker's based in Germany now. He said I'm more settled, and you know, I've got my travel and everything else sorted out. I think I'm ready to start vaulting well. It didn't happen here tonight for Hooker. It's a big shock. It's a shame as well for the organisers. So look back on this relay on the first leg, and Pognon, who was meant to be handing over, I just think there's something wrong with him because he slows right down. Lemaitre has gone off his mark, but because the incoming runner is running so slow, there's no way he's going to get there. And so Lemaitre is gone, and the baton not passed on, which of course, as everybody knows, is the point of this event. And it doesn't matter how many times you practice it, all of a sudden you get into a competition like this. And this is the point of tonight, to give them the chance to have a pretty stiff, competitive outing. And certainly from the Great Britain squad, they'll be pretty pleased with that. I'm not sure what the British squad will look like in it when we get to Barcelona. All sorts of talk about who will come in and who won't come in. Craig Pickering, perhaps one of those who hasn't been running particularly well, whose place might be suspect.
In the background there you can see the French squad, and Pognon, their lead-off man, really struggling to get to Lemaitre. Maybe the youngster went off too quickly. Certainly, as you said, Steve, Pognon was struggling. It didn't show any signs of an injury, a hamstring pull or anything, but the way that Pickering caught him up, that he was caught up there by Lowell Balogun rather, was just ridiculous in that first 100. Dear oh dear, how frustrating for the guys who don't even get their hands on the baton.
So only 3 teams finished. Great Britain 38.70, winning by 500ths of a second from Italy, and Poland 39.14 in 3rd place. Women's long jump. This was earlier in the competition. Savine, who might have not necessarily started as one of the favourites here, given that lots of the others have been performing so well. Twice world triple jump champion, of course. And Savine in the second round went out to 6.73, and that would be good enough for 3rd place. It was a pretty tight competition. At one point there were 4 different jumpers sitting on 6.56. Not the sort of marks we were expecting from certainly a couple of the Russians, Kotova, Klishina. This is Eloise Lesseur from France. Her best effort coming in the 3rd round. This is home interest. And I said how tight it was. There was literally 4 or 5 centimetres covering positions 4th all the way down to 8th. And 8th was where Lesseur finished.
Well, back to this vault contest, which is in its very early stages already, minus the Olympic and World champion Steve Hooker. The bar at 5.60 meters. Michal Balna and Villani clear, as well as Shabinsky. Poland, he cleared the 2nd attempt. Clavier here, had one failure. He sits alongside what now 6 other men who have had one failure. 2 men have had 2 failures. Amongst them Gibilisco, who of course lifted the world title in this arena back in 2003, the Italian. He even struggled at 5:40 to Gibilisco, went over that at the second attempt. The French with such a strong tradition in the pole vault. It's Clavier, well, only 4th in those French championships. A couple of weeks ago, he's reserve actually for the French team in Barcelona. Good performance here tonight, will do his draws no harm at all. No, gives that one quite a clatter and looked like he was struggling for the height, frankly. He is a 570 vaulter this year. Indeed, Clavier was 7th at the Beijing Olympic Games just a couple of seasons ago, was in wonderful shape. It's a 575 vaulter at his best, but really this 2010 summer he's going quite the same way. Here comes the 3rd man to have recorded 2 failures, 560. Well, the line-up for the men's 3,000 metre steeplechase, 18 athletes out there, 2 of them of course are pacemakers, and they want it to be a quick one. Nobody's broken 8 minutes yet this year in the world. Indeed, it's a fairly select club anyway, the sub 8-minute club. But that's the target, and it is a very, very strong field. Of course, totally dominated by those East Africans, the Kenyans in particular. The Olympic champion, Brimin Kipruto, he's also the world champion from Osaka the year before Beijing. Still only 24 years old, Kipruto. Look out too for Ezekiel Kemboi. He took over the mantle of world champion last summer from Kipruto. And Mustafa Mohammed, well, the 31-year-old Swede, former Somali, born in Mogadishu. He's actually trained with Great Britain's Mo Farah, and himself a former Somali in the last couple of years. But coming back from an operation to his right knee in December last year. Amongst the top Europeans nonetheless. It's not an event this which on the European stage is going through a vintage period, it has to be said. Gandrieux, perhaps the best of the French here, and it's a great shame that the top 2 French are absent from this race. They're amongst the fastest in the world is the Olympic champion Ekisi and Bob Tari, the world number 2 this year.
Well, Menil continuing in the same vein as we've seen for many of the vaulters over on the far side. This is second failure at 560.
We'll go through this lineup, and it's all the K's together. Kemboi, Koech, Kiplagat, Kipruto, Matalon. Well, Matalon leads the Diamond League rankings. And he's also the Kenyan champion from about 3 weeks back, the 26-year-old. World Championship silver medalist last year, has a good championship temperament as well. Taleb of Morocco is an 8:07 man at his best, ran 8:17 in Heusden last weekend. But anyone who's not in sub 8:10 shape, likely to struggle here tonight from pretty early on. We're looking for 2:39 for the first kilometre. That's sub 8-minute tempo, of course, for 3,000 metres. And you put a few barriers in the way, and it really does test your strength. Well, big field, as you can see. Needed that full width of the track, didn't they? But away they go. The first pacemaker should be a Frenchman, Vincent Le Dauphin. He will take them to 1,000 metres. There he comes round the outside now. And himself an Olympic finalist back in 2004. And nowadays, Steve, you find, don't you, that a lot of athletes don't just retire, they become pacemakers.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure it's something I would have enjoyed, but Le Dauphin seemed to be struggling to get the front through that first 150 metres or so, and it's, you know, it's a field obviously loaded again with the best of the Kenyan challenge, and of course Benjamin Kiplagat of Uganda now, 21-year-old, another kind of new name in this event. And you're right, it's probably not even right that the likes of Tari aren't here, second ranked in the world this year. And okay, you know, they're preparing for Barcelona, but I'm sure that in that planning, maybe could have found within his race programme the opportunity to come and run here, but not to be. And you're right, we have the likes of Kester Salu, of course, pulled out of the Gateshead Diamond League last week. European steeplechasing not exactly going through a rosy period, but we should be in with something pretty quick here tonight. And if Le Dauphin here can stick to the pace, the water jump you can see is on the inside, so it's not was exactly 2.5 laps. This was the women's long jump with Gomez. We'll bring you up to date with what happened in the women's long jump. Gomez was jumping pretty well, consistent, but 2-3 no jumps left her in that second place.
Well, the man in second place at the moment behind Le Dauphin is the other pacemaker, Haron Lagat. He'll take them to 2,000 metres in 5:20. In third place is the little figure of Paul Koech, the Olympic bronze medalist from 2004. He's run under 8 minutes 6 times as Koech. He's one of the most prolific to achieve that. He's also a great runner on the flat. He's a 7:33 man on the flat. Kiplagat there in 4th place was 9th in the Olympic Games, as we see Le Dauphin drop aside there, his job done after well under 1,000 metres, it has to be said. We're looking for about 2:40 for the first kilometre, 2:39, and Le Dauphin decided he'd had enough. Lagat, Koech, Kipruto now right up alongside Kiplagat. Kipruto, remember, the reigning Olympic champion, 8:01.62 this year.
Well, I can bring you up to date with the result in the women's discus earlier on. This is Sandra Perkovic, a 20-year-old European junior champion last year. 60.44 actually began her competition. She would improve in the 5th round to 63.62. That had her for a while sitting in second place, but then Grasu, on the very final throw of her competition, went out to 63.78. The 38-year-old, by stark contrast to the youngster we saw a moment ago, finding her season's best just at the right time, so stealing second place there. There's no doubt about the winner, Yarelis Barrios, multiple medalist at the major championships, and it was her first round throw, 65.53, which was good enough on the day in what was in the end a fairly disappointing competition. Barrios has been performing the best in all of the Diamond Leagues and has continued that form here in Paris with another win.
Well, back to this steeplechase, 4 laps to go, and it's very quick indeed. 2:37.7 for that first kilometre. Quite a lot too fast, I have to say. That's pretty much on world record schedule. And yet, look, 6 men up there at the moment. The field has been absolutely spread eagled by this very, very rapid pace. Oh, and who was that there? Had a real stumble badly at that barrier going into the back straight. Was it Kiplagat, Benjamin Kiplagat of Uganda? An Olympic finalist back in Beijing. He was 9th there, 11th in the World Championships last year. Second pacemaker Lagat drops out there with 3.5 laps done. And now it's Koech at the front. They come to the water jump. He puts his foot in it. Generally, it's the ones of the Kenyans to leap it clean like racehorses. They come into the straight now, and it's Koech, Kipruto. Behind him, Kemboy, then Kiplagat, the man who almost went down 200 metres ago.
Well, it's because he's got a terrible hurdling style, Tim, is the main reason. He's a bit of a raw talent, is Kiplagat. He's still only 21 years of age. He's made big improvements this year, but you can see the way he hurdles, and his trail leg tends to almost look as though he's going to catch the hurdle all the time. He's tall, he's gangly, he's a very good runner, and he's run 8.3, big personal best, and competitive here again in, as you said, rightly said, was way too quick through the first 1,000 metres. So a good race developing here. But I always like watching Koech. I think he's one of the most consistent. You know, we sometimes see the Kenyans come and go at this event. You talked about Kemboy, who's had a struggling season, but for me, Koech is always thereabouts. The second kilometre much slower, 2:44.
Well, that's a shame. It does suggest that the pacemakers got it quite wrong. The runners were tempted into going with it through those early laps. And now a 2:44 on top of a 2:37. Looks like a poor use of energies, I have to say. Koech it is, though, who continues to lead, clearing that barrier with plenty of room to spare. He was only 4th in the World Championships last summer, Paul Koech. 2 laps to go. He leads, still 5 of them there, but the rest of the field spread about 130 metres behind them. Kipruto in second place, Kemboy in third. Then Matalong and Kiplagat bring the back of the group. Kipruto, of course, is the world number one, the fastest this year. Nobody, as I said, has broken 8 minutes this year. 2:44 saw them reach 2,000 metres in 5:21. So there's an outside chance of a sub-8 minute clocking here tonight. Jos Hermans on the inside there, roaring his boys on. Koech, Kemboi, Kipruto, Matalong, Kiplagat at the back of the field. Impressive, Steve, that they're moving at more or less 8 minute pace, and there's still 5 of them there, very, very close together. But this is where I'd expect somebody to make a move if they're wary of their rivals and their sprint finishes. Koech running wide off the curb.
And Koech always tends to do this. I'm not always sure why. I think he does have a good finish, but he always feels that he needs to stretch it out. He knows how good the likes of Kemboi and Kipruto can be. They've all got good finishes, to be honest. They should always be aware of Kiplagat as well. He's got good 1,500 metre pace, the tall figure in 4th. He might be struggling at this sort of pace today, but I think we're going to see a big finish here. 5 men still with a chance, and they're starting to gather behind Koech, who still has the lead, but he needs to stretch them out.
300 metres to run. Koech from Kemboi. Kipruto looking very, very bouncy there in the blue and yellow, moving up in 2nd place on the outside. Kemboi too positioning himself for an attack. They have eased off a little bit this last couple of laps. I don't think we're going to see a sub-8 minute performance. It was about 8:02 at the bell, and that's a significant acceleration from Kipruto there. Look at that lovely free ranging lanky runner, isn't he? But a really good turn of speed. Almost stumbles there, but there's so much bounce and energy in those legs. Comes off the final bend, and surely he could have broken 8 minutes here tonight. He's not going to do it. It's going to be somewhere outside it, but he's absolutely full of running. It's all about winning. It's all about getting one over on your rivals, not about quick times. It's not a bad time nonetheless. Look at it, just outside 8 minutes. It's a world best for this year. Koech second there behind Kipruto, and in 3rd place, well, I think it was Kemboi who came through. The place time's very impressive indeed, because goodness me, 8:20.91. It isn't inside a steeplechase, it's inside the normal barrier inside the track, but nonetheless they've covered that last lap in around 58.5, 59 seconds. Impressive stuff, and there's so much running left in him.
Well, he's always a danger when it comes to the finish, Kipruto. He does possess that bit of acceleration, and you see, for me, something like Koech let him go and then kind of kicked again, and then the gap doesn't get much bigger. I don't think Kipruto had any problems, to be honest. Sometimes we'd like to see Paul Koech just kind of sit and wait and then try and react, or maybe kick from 200 out. He winds it up and he winds it up, hopes to run the finish out of Kipruto. Well, that didn't happen tonight, but they've been rewarded, most of them, with very quick times here, and another fastest in the world this year. And as the Diamond League progresses through the season, we're seeing time and time again performances quicker than we've seen so far this year.
Well, here you can see Vlasic has lost her dominance. 186. Yeah, very comfortable. What an early opener that for Vlasic. Normally comes in about 188, 190. But the Croatian, reigning world champion both indoors and out, has a real fight in her hands here tonight in this discipline. Shante Lowe of the USA is the world number 1. 2:05, a new American record from a month or so back. That's a very, very easy jump from Vlasic. She's a massive figure, 193 tall. That's 6'4". She's done that off 5 strides, I should think, frankly. It's a sighting jump, if you like. She's actually said the surface here is very hard in the Stade de France, and there's little room for error technically. Here's Kipruto, just coming home to that steeplechase win. His time confirmed as 8:00.90. That's the fastest time in the world this year, and a meeting record to boot, as Steve mentioned. And he was just over a second clear from Paul Koech and Kemboi in 3rd, Ezekiel Kemboi. That's the significant point of the race, I think, when he really did kick in hard. And
the thing is, Tim,
the middle figure of Koech there really struggling to go with that acceleration, Steve.
Yeah, it's not just sprinting, is it? You have to be able to take these barriers, and you see what he does there. He screams over that water jump. He takes it absolutely in his stride, and this is what Kipruto is able to do, because when he kicks hard, you've got to really attack that water jump. He hardly puts a foot in it and takes that last hurdle very much in his stride as well. But those barriers obviously are there to almost slow you down. They don't when he's at full tilt. Just watch this. This is down the back straight, 200 to go. He goes, right, I'm going to make my move there. He attacks that barrier, but it's from here on. Now when he starts to kick, and watch how he takes this water jump. and you can practice this. He's at full sprint here. We're not going to see it. What we are going to see is the winning jump. This came in the very last round in the women's long jump. Brittany Rees, you saw, was having a difficult competition. It had a few no jumps I mentioned earlier on, then all of a sudden kind of gets it together right when it mattered and went out to a winning 6.79. Slight following wind for the American. And as I said, a rather inconsistent competition, to be fair. That one really had been billed as something that we could have 3 or 4 women in and around 7 meters. Never materialized, but Rees won it.
Well, back to this high jump competition. Early days yet. Stropina, the Ukrainian, 34 years old now. He's had a pretty solid season. 194, her best to date in 2010, but that's the first failure at 190. She's the first to attempt the height. 7 women still in the competition, incidentally. Melanie Melfort of France having 3 failures at 186. She's very much the French number 2. Can't tell you that Emma Gren is passing at this height, but well, that's not too promising for the Ukrainian.
Over on the far side, men's pole vault. Still continuing, and again, with if you are just joining us, the news that Steve Hooker went out in a very early stage, and we keep seeing a little replay of Kipruto. That's stupid chase, but that pole vault, we're seeing some good races on the track so far, but in the field, not quite getting the performances that we were expecting. Of course, still early stages. La Villani looking good in first time clearance at 560.
Well, Kipruto clearly is a man in sub-8 minute form. I'm still quite shocked actually how sprightly he looks and relaxed there too. Look at Koech behind him, working very hard for his second place. He was only over a second down, but Kipruto there could hardly have looked more casual and fresh. It looked like a repetition halfway through a training session, frankly, that final 400. Well, Gordieva then, next to go. Although on the track, the 800 metre run is nearly ready. Confirmation of the win for Kipruto there, world-leading performance, 8:00.90. Koech and Kemboi making it a Kenyan 1, 2, 3. Dan Hooling of the USA in 10th place with 8:19.
Next event on the track will be the men's 800 metres, and a very, very good field we have here, and a great race in prospect. Full lineup is in front of you there. A couple of pages. Bram Som and Walic of France will share the first lane. Andrew Wheating of the USA in 2. Then Chogi and Simmons will share lane 3. Kivuna and Kiplagat in 4. In lane 5, Lewandowski of Poland. Malotzi will be in lane 6, the South African. Kaki in 7, and the pacemaker, Davis Robinson, on the outside. Well, all eyes really on Kaki. A man who, of course, has seen his great rival, the Kenyan Rudisha, almost break the world record last weekend in a small meeting in Belgium. And the competition here is pretty stiff. Som and Walic on the inside. This young man, Andrew Wheating, is certainly making a name for himself over in the States. He ran really well in Eugene on his home track. More of a miler, but having a go at the 800 here. Of course, America's number 1, the American champion, Nick Simmons, sharing a lane with Augustine Chogi, who's coming down in distance here. Pretty good at 800 as well, Chogi, though, 1:44.86 last year. Kivuna and Kiplagat sharing lane 4. Both men under 1:45 this year, and that shows you the talent in this field, including Lewandowski, the European under-23 silver medalist and one of the favourites to take certainly at least a medal in Barcelona. Now Malotzi, a world champion who's been running very well indeed, particularly in the Diamond League events. Was second in Lausanne, but won New York, also won in Madrid. But you suspect that Kaki is the one they'll all be trying to get in front of, and that's going to be difficult. He says he wants a very fast pace. Now the organisers have said they've asked Davis Robinson here to go through in about 50. Kaki said, I've asked for 48, 49, which is super fast. We shall see who is right here. I suspect the 50 is a little slow if Kaki wants to get into the low 142s, even high 141s, which is what he says he wants to do. That amazing race Kaki had with Rudisha in Oslo a few weeks back. The men's 800. So Robinson on the outside, tasked with taking Kaki through in quick pace. It'll be interesting to see who decides to go with them. Malozzi, I suspect, will just try and hang on to Kaki and say, okay, you try and run away from me. I'm strong, I'm in good form. And Malozzi immediately coming across and trying to control the rest of the field, if you like, as they're all very much strung out. That's a very, very quick first 200 from Robinson, and I don't think Kaki there looks to me like a man who wants to go through in 48, does he? He's sitting off this, and Robinson's pretty experienced, Tim, and I suspect this is going to be something in the kind of high 49s, and Kaki is sitting back.
Well, when Rudisha ran his 141 last week, he went through in, what, 49.1, and Kaki, it doesn't really look like a man hungry for it, does it? There's about a 5-metre gap. 49.6, 49.7 in effect there for Davis Robinson. Kaki will have been outside 50 seconds, and that indicates for me that he's not really up for the task. Let's see, second lap to go. He needs about a 52 here.
Kaki's still not really turning it on. He's stretching them a little down the back straight. He's got Kavula, the young Kenyan, behind him. Chogi's in close order as well. Malozzi just starting to look as though he's struggling a little bit for my money. Bramson tucked on the inside, but they're well stretched out, and Kaki now just starting to push on around that top bend as he senses them getting a little bit closer. A young Sudanese athlete who's been so dominant at times. Will he kick away down the home straight now? Kaki from Kavula. Malozzi trying to get back on terms, but Kaki looking really strong, kicking away. They're not going to get anywhere near him. Malozzi chasing, but it's going to be way too late. Kaki storming home to win this. It won't be super fast by his standards. 1:43.51. Wheating finished quickly, might have got in there for about 4th place, ahead, just behind Lewandowski. They billed this as a super fast attempt by Kaki, but for my money, he never looked particularly interested in going through all that fast. He says, Rudisha and I are going to meet later in the year. We won't race each other week after week. They're not planning until, or perhaps maybe Brussels, as late as Brussels, to race each other again. Says, I'm not going to the African Championships, I'm going to enjoy my racing. And he certainly did that today. He was completely in control, Tim, and in the end, at the home straight, there's absolutely nothing they could do about him. And for him to run 1:43.5 is almost so far within his comfort zone at the minute that it's almost unfair to the others.
Well, when you telegraph your intentions like that, the others know exactly what they've got to do. He acted as a pacemaker in effect for them. He was there to be shot down. He did save a fair bit for the last 50. Credit to him for that, because otherwise Malauti might have got a lot closer. The South African having a good run there for second place, 1:44.1 for Malauti. But you're right. I mean, it's a sort of routine time now for the likes of Kaki that he has run so quick, 1:42.2. And a little bit disappointing, I suppose. I think conditions down there are pretty good.
Yeah, 1 or 2 solid runs. Lewandowski was finishing pretty quickly as Kavula faded. And look at the tall figure of Wheating, who's finishing fast. I'm just thinking Lewandowski maybe pushed through and past some there on the inside. Steve, he may well be disqualified for that.
Yeah, about 10 strides on the grass. You can't do that.
Actually, coming off the top bend, just seeing that. I've seen it the first time, but it's actually right on the top bend. He was running on the grass as well.
You can't just create another lane for yourself to the left of the inside lane.
Well, that result's going to get changed for sure. Just watch the last move. Yes, Kaki wins, and just watch Lewandowski. He's probably already thinking about. He's been on the grass once. He's going to get back on the grass again, coming through. He's got nowhere to go, so I'll just step on the grass. Thank you very much. Away he goes.
I bet Bramson couldn't believe it. Hang on, I'm on the curb. What are you doing over there? That's a first, I think. Quite so blatant.
What might have happened there, Tim, as we see Kaki in full motion, is that he knew he'd stepped on the grass coming round off the bend into the straight. He was probably thinking, well, I'm going to get disqualified anyway. I might as well do it again. They might not have noticed either occasion. I doubt it. Well, we've noticed anyway, so surely the judges have. No doubt about this young man, though.
Well, here's La Villani. in that pole vault. The bar at 5 meters 70, and La Villenie becomes the first to go clear. 6 men, no less, have attempted this height and failed prior to that vault from the Frenchman. I think on the back of tonight, Steve, we can declare quite comfortably that he is world #1. And what's nice about La Villenie, Steve, when you think he's only been around really for a couple of years, and yet he's taken to the pressures of elite performances and elite athletics really, really well. He's got a great championship temperament. Nothing seems to faze the lad.
No, you're right, he conducts himself very well, and of course with a young man, a French pole vaulter called Monsieur Galfion, who's not sitting too far away from you and I, and I'm sure enjoying the continued dominance of French pole vaulters. And La Villenie, well, he won't shed too many tears about Hoeka's misfortune here today. He's certainly got the Indian sign on him at the moment.
Well, it could well be at least one home victory coming up then in that particular discipline, but the bar at 570, plenty more to come, I'm sure. Here's Schulte low, world #1. Here she goes, low at 1m90. Thank you very much, that'll do. Perfect card. It's only a second jump of the competition. She set personal best both in and out this year. 2:05 makes her the world #1 outdoors. She said she stayed in her room all day because it's so easy to lose concentration in Paris because the city's so beautiful. It offers so much.
Ismay Neal has been having a difficult evening so far. Again, he's really struggling, Neal. Managed to make a third-time clearance at 560, but not looking in anywhere near the sort of form that he used to be able to produce. And Blaga Vlasic in that high jump, this could well develop into a good battle between the two of them. It's still fairly early stages, but watch this one through the evening. I was reading a comment from Vlasic, she said, you know, it's only 2.5 hours, the high jump, anything could happen. I think, only 2.5 hours? It can develop into an enthralling competition, which obviously we had with Vlasic and Friedrich for the last year or two. Well, she's got somebody else to contend with now.
Well, it's one of the highlights of the summer, isn't it? I think that's a high jump clash that we can enjoy for a few more Diamond League meetings. Over to the far side of the track for the women's 5,000 metres. 18 starters, quite a big field, and of course again dominated by the Kenyans and the Ethiopians. Melkamu very much amongst the favourites, hasn't raced since Ostrava back in late May. Melkamu, where she won the 10,000 metres. This, we think, just her third track race of the season. Jessica Augusto, one of the top Europeans there, wonderful form so far this year, the 28-year-old Portuguese. Rene Kalma, well, she's not in great form, 15th in Lausanne over 3,000 metres last week. There's a man who's in pretty good form, coming back from that Achilles injury which kept him out of the sport. He didn't do any training for some 3 weeks, then put in a couple of weeks work before the Gateshead 100 metres last week, where of course Gateshead, it was Lausanne in fact. But tonight we do have a great clash. Bolt against Asafa Powell, that one coming up in about an hour's time, as these ladies await to be brought under starters' orders. A very, very strong field this, I can tell you. Ejigu of Ethiopia is the Diamond League leader. And away they go yet again. They're looking for a very quick time here this evening. 14 minutes 30 is the target. And Steve and I were talking about the planned pacemaking times. We're looking for around 2:53 for the first kilometre, and then a second kilometre of around 2:45 would bring them through in around 5:45, and 3 kilometres in about 8:40, 8:41 is what's needed. Joroge, the Kenyan, is going to take them through the first 1,000 metres. That's a big field, and they're going to be led a merry dance by Joroge, and then Mrisho Mohammed of Tanzania. They're the two pacemakers. Joe Pavey, one of the few Europeans in this one, the Commonwealth Games silver medalist, who's coming back into reasonable shape at the grand old age of 36. Joe, fresh from the UK title over 10,000 metres. That was a couple of weeks back, and second place in the European Team Championships in Bergen a month back over 5,000. At the moment, Joe Pavey, 5th from the back of this field, just behind Augusto. But Steve, Ejigu looks very much up for the task here. And Elvana Beyligesi, an interesting athlete in this one, the former world record holder, former Ethiopian, runs for Turkey now. She's going for a double in the European Championships, and there's a few people looking at that, aren't there, including, for example, Britain's Mo Farah in Barcelona.
Well, I expect Mo Farah and Chris Thompson of Great Britain to do both events, and you're absolutely right, Beyligesi looks as though she's going to do that as well. As we quickly move across to the men's javelin, Pit Kamaki. First round, and we haven't seen anything as far as that, and Pit Kamaki very, very quickly establishing his credentials here. The lead so far, 80 meters and 14. Brekala from Finland. And I was talking about conditions. I was just trying to check down there while I was talking about the wind at the moment. It's kind of gusting around there, but I think it's going to help the javelin throwers this evening. That's 83.33 for Pit Kamaki, into the lead in the first round.
Well, coming up to the 1,000 metre point in this women's 5,000 metres. Of course, the javelin throwers just have to be patient. They must get used to it.
And Thorkildsen will be the last to go. We'll see him in just a second, I'm sure. He will take the advantage of the gap as these 5,000 metre runners are still fairly tightly packed. Here he is, Thorkildsen, with his first throw of the competition. 83.33 to beat. That's well over 85. And again, Andreas Thorkildsen shows why he is still the world's #1. He's been pretty dominant all through 2010. And with his first throw here this evening, looks as though that may well be set to continue. He is one of the ambassadors of the Diamond League, and to be fair, out of the ambassadors they chose, apart from Usain Bolt, who of course himself was injured for a little while, he almost was the only one competing for 2-3 meets.
Njoroge then in his 5,000 metres. They've gone through 1,000 in 2:50.9. It's well, yet again, it's shades of that men's steeplechase. A little bit too quick that first kilometre. 2:51 in effect. They were looking for 2:53. It's very fast. Malkamu in third place. Chenonge in fourth there. Chenonge of Kenya, who recently was second in the Kenyan Championships over 5,000 metres. But it's pretty much single file in this women's 5,000 metres. Such is the intensity of this pace, and while we've got a group of about 11 or a string of about 11 or 12 athletes still together, some of them have got to be really suffering. 9 laps to go, and it's almost 2 separate races now, with about 10 or 11 athletes in that lead group, as you can see, with Njoroge still at the front.
Well, we can have a look back at the women's shot put, and it was billed certainly as a competition between the two big favourites, Valerie Vili and Ostapchuk, and that's the way it turned out. Third place, Karenko Miknevic. In the very first round, she went out to 19.47. But it was always going to be about these two. Kate said last week it was Ostapchuk who came out on top, and once again, Valerie Vili, despite opening up with a 2010 in the second, early on in the competition, second round, all she could do was improve in the 5th round, just 3 centimetres, 2013, and that was never going to be enough to get on terms with Ostapchuk, who's starting to find a rich vein of form. And indeed, herself in the second round went out at 20.78, getting very close to that 21 metre mark, a new meeting record for Ostapchuk, the Belarusian. At the moment, anyway, certainly having, or appearing to have, Vili tucked in her back pocket, as it were, as we come back to this 5,000. Just when you were talking, Tim, I was kind of on about the race splitting up here, and I think there's been a kind of lack of depth almost at the women's 5,000 this year. We haven't seen lots and lots of competitions under 15 minutes. We're going all over the place. Philippe Sodoma with triple jump. Tim.
Well, yes, Philippe Sodoma here, the European #1 when it comes down to competitive stakes and consistency. Though in the first round, without Teddy Tamgo, the Frenchman who leads the world rankings this year, but just lacks that consistency. Remember, Tamgo only 3rd in the European Team Championships. We'll come back to you with the mark for Idowu there, because we've left it rather quickly. And here we have Mauricio now. Melkamu in second place there, with Chinonga in third place. Melkamu actually ran up alongside Mauricio when Mauricio was in second place, and Njoroge was leading, as if to say, come on, move up, accelerate, let's go a bit quicker here. And it's obviously had the right effects, and Mauricio is actually drawing clear. Don't forget that in this race we've got the world champion from last summer, the Kenyan Vivian Cheruiyot. We've got the silver medalist Sylvia Kibet, both of them Kenyans, remember, and the bronze medalist from those world championships in this field as well. It's a very, very strong lineup. Several acts yet to unfold in this 5,000.
Well, this is Alexis Capello. I'll just bring you up to date. We are moving around very quickly here. In the triple jump, Philip Sodolu, 17.20 in the first round, in second place, behind Girault, who leads with 17.33. But what can Alexis Capello do, the Cuban? Very, almost lazy looking on the runway. That's not going to trouble the leaders. Again, a man who, at his best, could certainly win this competition today, but let's go back to this 5,000. And it's interesting, isn't it, that you were saying, Tim, about the big names in that pack, and almost as though they're looking at each other and waiting for one of them to break out. Kibet or Cheruiyot or Melkamu. Not so far, though.
Well, that first kilometre was so fast. The second kilometre had to be slower. It was about 2:50, 2:56, that second kilometre after a 2:50. Brought them round to 2 kilometres in 5:46. And at a 73 there, that's a slowing as well in this field. But there's still a surprisingly big pack, considering it's been quick. Cheruiyot leads, is in second place at the moment, the world champion from last summer.
Vasilevskis on the javelin, and it's way down over 75. That's what he threw in the first round. No improvement there, and we are jumping around a little bit here,
just
to
a
say
bit.
the least.
Mauricio then leading from Cheruiyot, Melkamu in third, Ejigu there in fourth place. Very much a Kenya against Ethiopia dust-up, with back in sixth place the diminutive figure of Abela Gesse, the former Ethiopian, now 27 years old. She's the one, remember, who said she's going for the double. Abela Gesse, in the colours of Turkey. She will be competing in Barcelona in a couple of weeks' time. But she hasn't broken 15 minutes this year, and there's a slowing here, no doubt about it. Mauricio, despite being at the front as the pacemaker, has slowed this down, and that there's a real grouping here now. We're too deep off the curb. Certainly, it looks like Augusto's having no trouble with this pace. Just looking for Jo Pavey. She's in the second pack, about 50 metres down.
Well, 3-1 for that kilometre, Tim, and it's really not good pacemaking. They were asked to run sort of 69-second laps, and the penultimate one to the one where she dropped out was a 73, and that one was, she speeded up a little bit to try and get to a 72, but well, 93 in the high jump, and we're really not into the business end of this high jump yet, Tim. I'm sure they're going to go much, much higher than this, and no surprise that Howard is clear there. We've just got that 5,000. I'm sure we'll be back with it in a second, but as it continues, it's a first time clearance all the way so far for Howard Lowe. As I said, they'll go much, much higher. But I was saying this about the 5,000 so far this year. We've had a couple of good races, but I don't think anyone's really dominating. Therefore, I just sense a bit of a slight lack of confidence amongst one or two of them. And Cheruiyot, I think, has been the best so far this year, and Melkamu maybe not quite the best. We're looking to see how good Abela Gesse is here this evening. So far so good, as that group starts to get a little smaller now, down to 5 of them. And for the first time, really, somebody trying to dominate this, someone trying to have a go. She's looking behind his Cheruiyot to see if she's doing any damage, to see who's coming with her. And you really, when you go at the front, I think you either put your foot down and go for it, or keep out of the way. And at the minute, Cheruiyot, she's certainly stretched them out and picked them up after that disappointing third kilometre there. So let's see if she can bring them back to something more reasonable.
Well, the time at 3 kilometres, 8:48. Cheruiyot from Melkamu. Ejigu in third place. Chimweyo in fourth place there. But Cheruiyot here, I just get the feeling she knows she's got a strong field behind her. Oh, Blanca.
Sorry, guys. I know you and I are a little bit exasperated at jumping up and down. We, of course, want to follow the high jump, but at this stage, it's fairly low heights for the likes of Vlasic and Howard Lowe. And I might just put a little bit on. She clears this. I think did. She just brushed it a little bit, just as we get to the business end of these 5,000 metres. So the two of them still very much in it, in that high jump. Vlasic, who said she's been relishing the competition. Certainly, I think we could be in for a good one here tonight. Big crowd around that first bend to watch this women's high jump as well. Already enjoying it.
Well, she gave it a little scrape there, didn't she, by her standards? Not the best of efforts, that one from Vlasic. 1:96 though. First time and still a clean card. Back to this 5,000 metres. We're almost up to the 4,000 metre point. There it is, 2:54 for that kilometre. She hasn't really turned it anymore, has the leader. Abela Gesse struggling there back in 5th place a little bit, but the leader still Chariot. Remember, she won that world title with a 58-second last lap. I think she believes she's got the beating of Melkamu and Ejigu here, the two Ethiopians behind her. And I'm just wondering what Melkamu's thinking is here, because she's a strength runner, Melkamu. I'd have expected her perhaps to have pushed on through this last couple of kilometres and tried to take the sting out of the legs of the Kenyan. 2 laps to go, a 69 lap there. She's a lovely, rangy, lanky-looking athlete, is Chariot. Very free running, plenty of swinging of the arms there, but when she turns on her speed and that ponytail flapping, she can beat just about anybody. It takes the likes of Dibaba to get the better of her, and that's when she's in the very best of form. She hasn't really yet cranked it up. Still 5 of them there. You can just see Abela Gesse in the background begin to struggle a little bit. 600 metres to run.
I think Abela Gesse, Tim, she's just actually picking up. You know, you're absolutely right. She was struggling a lap ago, and then she sensed that Chinonga is not going to go with these 4. She's fighting really hard, and the advantage that the others have is just their race fitness, if you like. And Abela Gesse is running well here tonight, but I don't think she's going to figure. She's already looking behind, realising that these 3, Ejigu, Melkamu and Chariot, are moving much better than she is as they approach the bell here. But we're up for a real burn-up here on this last lap. 3 of them closely bunched. Abela Gesse struggling to go with them. Who's going to get out on top here? Chariot there to be shot at. Chariot from Melkamu, from Ejigu. Abela Gesse desperately hoping one of them will drop back. She has a little glance over her shoulder there. Abela Gesse in 4th place. I don't think she's going to have the acceleration to go with this, because this is where you'd expect Chariot to be challenged. She's devastating down the home straight. She's leaving an awful lot of space there on the inside. Melkamu could come through on the inside, but this is a good run from Ejigu. Ejigu it is, in 2nd place now. It's just eased past Melkamu, who, remember, is more of a 10,000 metre specialist. But Chariot just beginning to wind it up, lengthening the stride. There's not really a clear acceleration there in terms of the cadence, but the stride is lengthened, and what a run this is from little Ejigu. 4th in the World Championships last year, the World Indoor Bronze medalist over 3,000 metres, and Chariot's got a battle on her hands here. She looks to me like she's doing just enough to stay clear, though. The head bobbing from side to side, the gap growing as the line approaches, and that's a very, very solid run indeed. 14:27.43, the fastest time in the world this year. It is indeed sub 14:30. That was the target. When you think that the world record, well, it's way down there. The world all-time list dominated by Dibaba's 14:11. We're a long way shy of that, but it's nonetheless a very impressive run from Chariot. And when you think that she took on the burden of leading the last, 4 or 5 laps herself, with the Ethiopians breathing down her neck, all credit to her. More of her in a second. This is Torkelson. Second round. And this is live. He's leading the competition, 85.63 in the first round. That one not as far. The height he's getting on that javelin, much more than the rest of the competition. Torkelson with a lead of well over 2 meters at the moment. You suspect chance of going much further here this evening. Conditions seem pretty good. It's a stadium which over the years has produced some great performances in the field as well as on the track, and because we have this kind of sunken pitch and arena here, it certainly doesn't matter if it's windy outside. Well, Chariot, it was a 61.3 last lap, and given the fact, as Tim explained, she'd been almost trying to stretch them out from the front. That was pretty impressive running. Came under some pressure from Ejigu. Really doesn't have the power of Chariot, I don't think. Neither of them you would describe as really powerful athletes. They're diminutive figures, but Chariot is a real scrapper as well. as we go back to the pole vault.
La Villani then in the vault, and what can he do here? Yeah, likes it. La Villani at 5.76 goes clear first time. It's only his third vault of the evening. 5.60, 5.70, 5.76 first time. As you can see, totally in control. He's the only man in the competition with anything close to resembling a clean card. He's the only man clear at this height as well. 5 other men in the competition, 4 of them have failed it. 1 is passing at this height. That's Mazurek of Ukraine, who's in 3rd place at the moment. But talk about domination, with the likes of Hooker out of the way from very early on, failing his opening height, the Olympic champion, 5.40 that was, and he's way clear there, isn't he? La Villani at 5.76 with plenty of daylight between him and the bar, and who knows, he might yet produce something quite special here tonight.
Well, here's a result from earlier on. Kaki winning the 800, 143.5, really doing it all on the home straight, looked very impressive. Malozzi 144.1 in 2nd place. And I was just checking if there'd been a disqualification there. I'm not sure there was there? I might have missed that, but there should have been, because Lewandowski shouldn't have been allowed to step on the track as he did. Anyway, the diamond race standings won't be affected by that, except Lewandowski's in there with 2 points. Rudisha is still leading, though, with 3 victories from the 3 races he's taken part in. I'm going to check the result, Tim, on the computer. I'm not
well,
happy
I have to say, you hope that these
he's still on the result.
Transgressions are spotted and dealt with according to the rules, don't you?
This is Pit Kamaki from a few moments earlier in the javelin. His great rival over the years, Torkelson, is performing well, but not Pit Kamaki. He's struggling to find any sort of real form. 80.64 in the 2nd round.
Back to the triple jump competition, and Girault now. 2nd round effort. He's already cleared 17.33 to lead the competition. And that looks pretty useful too. That 17.33 opener from Girault was a season's best. Oh, what a shame. That looked pretty big as well. The Cuban was 4th in Beijing, and has frankly for most of this summer stuck to the lower league of meetings. He hasn't competed in a Diamond League meeting since Doha, which is what, some 6 weeks ago or more. Leads the competition, but only by dint of that one valid jump so far.
The next to go will be Great Britain's Philip Sodou. Before that, we'll pop across to the women's high jump. The bar now at 198. Been first time clearances all the way for Shante Howard-Lowe. The same for Blanka Vlasic, although Shante Howard-Lowe has had one more attempt all the way through, as we pop back, shall we say, to Philip Sodou now in the triple jump. Tim.
Thank you, Steve. Yeah. So Phillips then, 2nd round effort for Idowu. He opened to the Britain with 17.20. He leads the Diamond League rankings, does Phillips. 3rd in New York, the winner in Gateshead last weekend. Needs to find 13 centimetres. Great first phase. Oh no. Well, that looked like it was coming together, but just didn't have the rhythm.
Line up for the next event on the track, the men's 110 hurdles. Banu Traore of France is on the inside. John Yarbrough of USA, Dwight Thomas of Jamaica, Ronnie Ash of the USA, David Oliver, world's #1 of the USA in 5, Ryan Wilson, USA in 6, Andy Turner, Great Britain in 7, Vasco of France in 8, and Joel Brown, USA on the outside. Late addition to the field, Banu Traore, European Junior Champion last year, 13.57 so far in 2010. Fine young talent from France. Dwight Thomas, the Jamaican record holder, 13.31 is season's best, a little off that which he was performing last year. Dwight Thomas. Sorry, excuse me. It was John Yarbrough, wasn't it? Then Dwight Thomas. We, as I said, with late addition and 1 or 2 lane changes there, but not for this man, Ronnie Ash. Now watch out for him, the young 22-year-old, big new talent, new name, 13.19 recently. Don't think he'll get too close to David Oliver though. Brilliant run in Eugene, 12.90, third on the all-time list. Ryan Wilson next to him of the USA was second in that race in Eugene, but it was almost in another race, to be honest, was so far behind Oliver. Andy Turner having a good season, looking for another confidence builder heading towards the European Championships in Barcelona. Bascu of France, two-time French champion. He's in 8th, and as I said, we now have 9 athletes in this. So Joel Brown will be in lane 9. 9 lanes in this home straight here in Paris. Made the championship, made the final of the American Championships, Joel Brown. But this is the man who everybody's talking about. No Dayron Robles. Thought he might have been here to race against Oliver, but I think he's thought better of it, and anyone who saw him run in Eugene would know why. 12.90. He said it wasn't even a good race. He said, I need to get out of the blocks quick. I need to start better to that first hurdle. Watch out for Ronnie Ash, the man in lane 4 next to him. As I said, new name. Just he's 22, still a bit of a raw talent. Still in college in Florida. Andy Turner, as I said, in 7, looking to put his name top of the European list, if you like. So it's Traore of France, then Yarborough USA, Thomas in lane 3 of Jamaica, Ash USA, Oliver USA, Wilson USA, Turner Great Britain, Bascu France, and Brown of USA. Oliver gets a reasonable start, not the best one he's ever had. Ash was good alongside him, but now David Oliver starting to get into this. And Oliver's going well with Wilson, starting to get back on terms with him. But Oliver starting to pull away now, as we expected. David Oliver's going to win this one from Wilson in 2nd place. 12.88, whoa! With a slight following wind. He's got quicker again. David Oliver almost breaking the world record. He says I can run 12.85. Who could doubt the man now? It looked a ragged race, to be honest, and he was pushed very, very close. Closer than we might have expected, and maybe that time a bit of a surprise. It's actually just been taken back 100, 12.89 officially, but he's getting closer and closer to the world record. No wonder Dayron Robles didn't want to race him. What a performance there. That was a really good run by 1 or 2 others in the race as well. Not far behind him, but David Oliver. And I'm looking down at who actually got the 2nd place. We'll confirm it for you shortly. Andy Turner was right in there for Great Britain.
Well, if that time's confirmed, Steve, it's a new US record. Over to Shante Lowe in this high jump competition. The bar now at 198, and Lowe there goes clear. 2nd attempt, and the first athlete to do so. Vlasic has had a failure. Skolina has had 2 failures. Everybody else out of the competition. We're down to those 3, but there's Dave Oliver. What a run that was. It is a new US record. It makes him the 3rd fastest in history, behind Dayron Robles and Liu Zhang, that time 12.89. Only the 3rd man ever to go under 12.90. As you say, a bit ragged, clipped a couple of barriers, didn't get the best start in the world, but really, really fluent, and that lead leg crashing down to the track, pulls the tail leg through. He's well clear there of the 2nd placer. It was not Andy Turner who was in 2nd place. The man in white there, Ryan Wilson, had a pretty solid run to get anywhere near him despite that crashing into that 2nd barrier. But Oliver here, what a shame he couldn't be up against Robles. The frustration for the Cuban of a mid-season injury must be absolutely enormous. But you're right, Steve, 12.85 is said is what he thinks he can run. That would be a new world record, and it's only a matter of time. He just needs a stronger following wind.
Well, the track this evening is certainly bringing a lot of sparkle. Are we to see some in this women's high jump? Vlasic, 1 failure so far. 198, and again shrugs. I do apologise for jumping around so much, of course. I'm trying to bring everything that's happening all at the same time, but let's just look at this from David Oliver. He was hitting hurdles, he was crashing into hurdles. You can see the damage he's done down the behind him there, all the way down that 110 meters, and the dip was untidy as well. He almost stumbled completely, but if he gets this right, he said himself, I'm not starting as well as I'd like. My best technical race actually was in Shanghai earlier in the year. It was nowhere near as fast as this, so goodness knows if he gets everything technically right how fast he's going to go. He's full of confidence, he's just strong, he's incredibly powerful, Oliver. And it was a good run by Wilson behind him. He's been rewarded with a personal best. In fact, there's the result. David Oliver, 12.89, getting ever closer to the world record. Wilson, a new, well, it's got their season best, 13.12. Ronnie Ash, I said, a young man who may well improve over the next couple of years. Watch out for him. But it's wins all the way for David Oliver, and he's top of the pile in the diamond race for the 110 hurdles.
Well, surely it's only a matter of time until we see the American up against Robles. Robles, remember winning in Lausanne a week ago in 13.01. That was impressive, but we understand did injure himself midweek this week, running some 150s in training. Oliver, frankly, would not have been beaten tonight, I suspect, but it'll come. We want to see those big head-to-heads. Confirmation of that win for Vivian Chariot. 14.27, the fastest time in the world this year by the world champion Ejigo. Good running there, a personal best. And Abela Gesse getting the Europeans in there for Turkey in third place. Joe Pavia, season's best there in 15.02, but in 13th place. And confirmation of Chariot leading the diamond race standings in the 5,000 metres. Ejigo in second place on the same number of points. It comes down to win-loss record, therefore. Dibaba in third with 4 points.
Well, Vlasic on the edge here. She's had 2 failures at 198. And when we were expecting a real competition to develop between Vlasic and Shanti Howard-Lowe here, who's just pacing around down there, not really watching Vlasic, just concentrating on herself. We were certainly expecting the two of them to go over 2 meters. It's all down to this for Vlasic. Third attempt then, 198. That's better. That's much, much better from the Croatian. And the crowd on this first bend, even some applause there from Shanti Howard-Lowe. She must be relishing this competition, and it's good for women's high jumping that the two of them are developing this rivalry this year. But it looked just for a moment there as though Vlasic was going to come up short, but that was better. Had to reach for that though. She just, you know, when she's at her best, Tim, it's almost, it's smooth, isn't it? You know, and you can feel a kind of, there's a bit of tension there with Vlasic.
Well, she's such a big character, such a tall figure, that when she does clear well, it still looks relatively effortless. And I always feel a little bit puzzled when she fails these lower heights. Anything under 2 meters for her, frankly, is pretty run-of-the-mill stuff. She shouldn't be struggling at that sort of height. I still don't feel technically she's in the groove yet this summer. She said that last year she took a long time to warm into the season and didn't really get going until mid-season, and that looks to be the case again this year to me.
Into the third round in the men's javelin. That was a few minutes ago. Torkildsen, don't forget, leading with 85.63. And again, not quite getting up to that distance. He's had 2 throws in the 83 zone, but he's still leading. And again, a competition which perhaps the conditions just not helping as much as we thought they might do. That wind we talked about in the 110 hurdles was just, what was it, 0.5 following? They're throwing in that direction. But he's got a comfortable lead at the moment of a couple of meters.
There's Dave Oliver, still strutting. Boy, is there a little bit of extra bounce in his stride. Former American footballer, can't you see it? I should think there'd be quite a price on his head to return to the favourite game of North America. There he goes. He did start pretty well, in fact, first to that first barrier.
Just to, as we'll watch this again, Tim, just to reiterate, I'm not sure if we did, of course, it's a new American record, that, because he'd equalled it in Eugene. Dominique Arnold, who had 12.9, I'm sure you mentioned it, but I think that will be a source of great pride to him. There have been some great American 110 hurdlers, and we were talking to Alan Johnson last week, the likes of Skeets Nehemiah, Roger Kingdom, of course, over the years, and now the American record belongs to this man here, David Oliver.
Sort of fitting, isn't it, Steve, with Alan Johnson announcing his retirement in Gateshead last week. The great man, an Olympic champion, what is it, 4-time world champion, Alan Johnson. There's La Villani in this full competition, which he's now cleared 581 at the second attempt. He has had a little X beside his name. He's had a little chink in his armour exposed. But Mazurek is still in the competition. The Ukrainian lies in third place, but has one attempt left at 5.81. Miles is in second, but has had 3 failures at the previous height. Of course, Mazurek passing that height.
Well, the bar's now gone up to 2 meters. We've already seen a failure, or there has been a failure anyway, I haven't seen it, from Shonte Howard-Lowe. And so the first attempt now for Blanka Vlasic, just the 2 of them left in the competition. Shikalina took third place, clearing 196, but it was always going to be about these 2. Vlasic then, first attempt, and this time, advantage to the Croatian. She's the first to go clear at 2 meters. It's over to you, Shonte Howard-Lowe. And this is what they've paid to see here. Real head-to-head stuff. And Vlasic, we were saying it might not be as smooth as it used to be, but she's a gutsy competitor, and when it looked as though she might go out at 198, she got it together, and now advantage to her. She's clear.
Well, that's shaping up beautifully, isn't it, that high jump competition? I think a couple of acts yet to go. Back to this triple jump competition, and Philips Udowo now. Third round, 17.20. He's been shunted down as Philips to 4th place, with Coppello leading with that second round 17.34. Giralt in second place, 17.33. That was his opener. And Kuznetsov of Ukraine in third place, 17.21. Again in round 2, that. So the Briton, who would like to think of himself as favourite for the European title in Barcelona, in 4th place with 1 European in front of him. Tamgo is, of course, a non-starter here this evening, the world #1, and we understand that the Frenchman, his participation in Barcelona really is in doubt. Achilles and the hamstring injury. Philips, though, the world champion for Britain. No, he just cannot get his rhythm tonight. 2 rounds left, or 3 rounds left for Udowo. The women's 200 metres, there's the lineup. Alison Felix, the world #2, goes in lane 4. She said before this meeting that she would love to break 22 seconds tonight. She's trained very hard since Eugene a couple of weeks ago. She is, of course, the 3-time world champion at this discipline. Debbie Ferguson-McKenzie goes in lane 1 for the Bahamas, the Olympic bronze medalist in this event 6 years ago in Athens. She's the oldest in the race by 9 years, is Ferguson-McKenzie. Still in very good form. Bianca Knight of the USA, winner in Gateshead last week, goes in lane 2. In very good form, running 22.7 in Gateshead into a pretty strong headwind. Don't think she'll be delighted with that lane draw. Kellyanne Baptiste, she was second in Gateshead over 100 metres, the Trinidadian. Her season's best, 22.8. May see her struggle in this sort of company, and in particular up against this lady. In lane 4, it is Alison Felix. Twice Olympic silver medalist. She's going for the double next year in Daegu. She's at 200 metres and 400 metres and plans that for 2012 as well. Shalonda Solomon goes in lane 5, former world junior champion, the silver medalist in the US Championship. She was only 4th in Gateshead last week at 100. This is her better event though, 22.4 this year. Sharon Simpson, the Olympic silver medalist, she actually shared the title over 100 metres. She was 3rd in Gateshead last week with a season's best. And Portia Lucas, the bronze medalist in the US Championships, the 22-year-old, 22.49 this year. She has gone quicker, best of 22.2. And the lineup completed with the French Lena Jacques-Sebastien, French champion this year, took 3rd place in the European Team Championship, so not to be sniffed at, 22.8 this season. But what can Alison Felix do here? Remember, she lost in the New York meeting in a wonderful head-to-head against Veronica Campbell-Brown, the Jamaican, the double Olympic champion, the only athlete under 22 seconds this year with 21.98. And that's why Felix in lane 4 would love to get under 22 seconds here tonight and join Veronica Campbell-Brown and maybe take the world lead. Ferguson-McKenzie in 1, Knight in 2, Baptiste 3, Felix 4, Solomon 5, Simpson 6, Lucas 7, Jacques-Sebastien in lane 8. Away they go. Great start from Felix. She's not normally the best of starters, but she got away well there. She's already well up on the athlete outside of Solomon. Felix blasting this first 100 metres around the bench. Got a clear lead over the rest of them. Going quite well in lane 3. Inside her is Baptiste. But this is all about Felix. Here comes Ferguson McKenzie too. She's having a strong run in the dark classes in lane 1. But look at Felix here. 3 metres clear. 4 metres clear at the line. 22.15 in 0 wind. In still air she runs 22.15. That's unlucky. It would have been she'd had a bit of wind there. She'd have been down towards the 22 flat, sub-22 territory. But nonetheless, a very, very impressive run from Allyson Felix. It's clearly her best distance at the moment, but there are many who feel that with a 48-second dead 400-metre relay leg to her name, the 400 metres is just waiting for her to arrive. And it's an event which at the moment on the world scene, frankly, Steve, is not particularly strong, the 400. And be able to take that 200 speed into 400 metres is a heck of an advantage.
Well, we'll come back to Allyson Felix in a minute, talk about her, but there's been developments in the high jump because Howard Lowe cleared 2 metres at a first attempt, but then failed with the first attempt at 2 metres and 2. So now Vlasic has the opportunity to really put the pressure on the American. She's still in the lead because her first time clearance at 2 metres. Howard Lowe cleared at that height as well, but as I said, with 1 failure now. First attempt then for Vlasic at 2.2. Oh, it stays on! And again, Vlasic rises to the occasion, literally. And how pleased is she? She seems to relish this competition. Sometimes she can be totally dominant, and then of course she's gone to major championships and not performed as well as she should have done. But she's getting used to the idea of being put under this sort of pressure and responding well. First time cleared 2 metres, now first time cleared 2 metres 2. And
well, there's a famous face. There was a famous face. He's not too keen to let us see it as Usain Bolt. He's on in what, about 15 minutes time is the big man. He's trying to say I'm not Bolt. That's Bolt. I don't think there's any mistaking the fastest man in history. He's a massive figure. Look at him towering over those two, and there's a bit of a hint. Allyson Felix winning the 200 metres then, 22.14 for the American, ahead of her compatriot Solomon, 22.55. Comfortable win that. Ferguson McKenzie, a season's best, in 3rd. And the divvying up of points, 4 for Felix, 2 for Solomon. And Felix now leads the Diamond Race standings over 200 metres with 6 points from Campbell, Brown and Jetta and Stewart, who all share 2nd place.
I've got some news for you, Tim. There's been a corrected result in the 800, and Lewandowski is still in 3rd place. Don't believe it, he absolutely is. I've got a corrected result as we look at this replay of the 200, and if you remember early on, we saw Lewandowski step off the track indeed twice to gain an advantage, particularly in the last 10 metres or so, but also at the top of the home straight as we're watching Allyson Felix. We'll keep you posted on the 800. I just love watching Allyson Felix run, and you know, let's be fair, with Veronica Campbell-Brown, the two of them are so far ahead of everybody else in the 200. You're right, though, the 400 also looks there for the taking for Allyson Felix if she wants to, and she said, no, I want to run both events. I'm not ready to move completely to the 400 yet, and why should she when she's running as well as this over 200 metres? Simply serene at times.
It was quite strange, actually. You saw that aerial shot of that field. The profile of the race, the way they were finishing, was fairly normal, a sort of spearhead fashion, except Felix didn't fit the pattern because she was so far out in front. There were shades of Usain Bolt, the way he dominates his races, major championships, in that shot a couple of minutes ago. And speaking of whom, there he is, Usain Bolt. He will be, come that 100 metres in just a few minutes' time. Bolt in lane 4. This young man, Lemaitre, will be in lane 5, right beside him. And Asafa Powell will be in lane 6. Now, Torkildsen, 4th round. He holds the lead. There's Torkildsen, and this one looks big. It's very big. Oh, that's massive. 85.63 in the first round was his very, very solid opener. Then a couple of 83-metre efforts. That one's out there, 87 metres there or thereabouts. Verkala is now in 2nd place, but that from Torkildsen, wow. the Olympic, world and European champion, the unique set that, has won all 4 Diamond League meetings so far in this discipline, and I can't see him losing that win streak here tonight. 87 metres 50 to extend his lead.
Well, the field really starting to come alive now. High jump, javelin, and in the pole vault, this is Le Villenie at 5.91 and goes clear. Another wonderful competition. He's got it sewn up, it's in the bag. Of course, Steve Hooker going out early on, left the way clear for Le Villenie, but so consistent, vaulting so well. He had one failure at 5.91 and then clear with his second attempt. And now, Tim, this women's high jump really starting to build to a great climax now. And the bar, I think she's asking for it to be moved up to 2.4. We are jumping around here. They're obviously Christophe Lemaitre. He doesn't know what's going on behind his head, does he? Bless him. Yeah, I think it's a good idea to move. Goodness me, we don't know where to look next. Anyway, apparently it's the women's 1500.
Bolt doing the rabbit ears there behind young Lemaitre's head. He's got a lot to learn, the young lad.
Well, there's a big field here. I won't read all of the names, but you can see the likes of Jamal, world champion, in there, and Shannon Robury, Kibiwott, Belete Enyol, a new name from Ethiopia, Lisa Dobrisky from Great Britain, world silver medalist, Lahoud, who has come through and run a super fast time, and Galeta Burka. Just some of the names to pick out of 19 athletes in this women's 1500. Way too many. Dehiba on the inside, Kuzma Piccioni from Italy, then we've got Felix next to her, Steph Twell of Great Britain, who's run well here before, Stellingworth, USA, Maxstad from Norway, Pierce is there, Adis, Shannon Robury, there's Jamal, hasn't been running at her best so far this year, although ran under 2 minutes for 800, Alminova, coming back from a 3-month suspension, the Russian, Helali, with Thomas, Kibiwott, there's Belete, Lisa Dobrisky, big step forward in the last couple of weeks, coming back from injury, looking forward again to Barcelona. That's Lahoud next to Lisa Dobrisky, who ran so well in Lausanne, going under 4 minutes. And then Galeta Burka, who may well start as the favourite here, but to be honest, any one of 4 or 5 women I think could win this. Tvedestup will be tasked with taking them through a very swift 2.7, 2.8 through 800 metres, and then keep going as long as she can. I'm not sure she'll be able to go much beyond that, and it'll be interesting to see where the pace continues. So this women's 1500 then. Let's me pause for a bit of breath. The colour is purple, isn't it, at the moment? It's probably about 12 of them wearing the same strip. Real test for Lisa Dobrisky here. Got down to 4-1, but now she wants to start winning her races after quite a few injury problems again. And what happened there? Now that would be technically a false start, but I think it was because of Vlasic.
Wow, Vlasic very much in the driving seat in this women's high jump competition. How the positions have been reversed from 20 minutes or so ago. Shante Lowe, I can tell you, has indeed had 3 failures at 2.02. Vlasic has the competition won by a clear height, and here she goes for 2.04. 3 attempts she's got at this too. She's equalled the meeting record already with 2.02. No. And that wasn't very convincing. My Croat, not very good, but not sure she was very happy with that attempt.
Well, away they go in this women's 1500 metres. Like big rush to the front. Of course, we're expecting the pacemaker right on the far side with the long, blonde, flowing locks there. That's Tvedestup, who should, as I said, try and get through about 63, 64 through this first lap. It'll be interesting to see how the big names kind of settle down behind her. And a huge opportunity here for many athletes, but there's just too many. There's too much traffic, really hard to settle into the right position and settle into a good pace here. You get nervous about how many people are in front of you in a race like this. And certainly Lisa Dobrisky has just kind of gone to the back of that big group. She's what, probably about 10th or 11th at the moment, as Jamal just moves through in the white vest a little bit closer to the front than she started.
Well, it'll be interesting to see Dobryski's split. She was a very good third in a fast time in Lausanne a week ago, then a winner in Gateshead last weekend. Dobryski goes through there in about 63 seconds, so pretty much perfect for Dobryski. Of 61 is crazy. Back to La Villenie in this pole vault. Another man who has dominated this competition, has the victory under his belt already. He's going to win this contest, by the way, by at least 3 clear heights. If he clears this height too, he will have won it by 4 clear heights. No. That was a first attempt at 6:07, incidentally. Cleared 5:91 at the second attempt. That looked like a little optimistic to me.
Better stop still in the lead. Alminova is the one chasing out the Russian, with Worth Thomas, the American, working hard to stay with her. Burka well in contention. There's just a little bit of a gap just starting to appear with Burka, and they won't want to let her get too far away, and 1 or 2 sensing the danger of that. Dobryski starting to get closer, as indeed is Jamal and Beletta of Ethiopia. They wouldn't want to see Burka left out with a 3, 4, 5 meter lead of them after about 1,200 meters. But let's see what they go through 800. They were asked for about 2.7. This is super fast, this, from the leader. She's 2.599, essentially 2.6, but the main contenders around 2.7, 2.8. They're very much on for a fast time here, something under 4 minutes perhaps.
Well, I know she had to get out fast, Steve, did Tversdrup, the pacemaker, but 61.5 the first lap, and then a 64.5. Not great at all. She moves wide now after almost 1,000 metres, but the pace is taking its toll. Interesting to see the best European for my money at the moment, Dobryski, in about 6th place in that turquoise strip, has moved up now quite a lot closer to the front of the field. I think she's running smarter splits than most of them. Jamal in about 8th place in the white vest, really struggling now.
So they come round to the bell. Alminova in the lead. Burka is back in 3rd place behind Worth Thomas. Then we've got Shannon Rowbury. We've got Beletta of Ethiopia. Then Lisa Dobryski. Lisa Dobryski's looking good and looking strong, but she's going to just take the inside route as she's done before, but she just needs to be careful. Might want to follow Beletta around on the outside. Now Alminova's really running well, and Worth Thomas at the front. The others are looking at each other a little bit. Burka sees who's coming past her. It's Beletta who moves into 3rd place. Burka looking a little bit tired. Dobryski trying to get there. Rowbury hanging on as well. But out in the front, this is the Russian. Alminova is stretching away, and I said she's just come back from a 3-month suspension. She won the Russian Championships just last week, and look at this from Alminova. Last year under 4 minutes, which was a surprise to many, and she's come bouncing back here and is absolutely destroying everybody in the last 200 meters. She's stretching away. It looks way too easy for Alminova. Worth Thomas is clear in 2nd place. Lisa Dobryski trying to finish strongly in 3rd of Great Britain, but Alminova's going to take this. Look at the clock here. This is going to be very fast indeed. 3:57.66. The others just about on the 4-minute mark in the battle for 2nd, 3rd and 4th. Goodness me. Alminova looks hardly out of breath there. What a performance from her. I thought that she was maybe going to pay for going with the early pace. She was never too far away from the pacemaker. And well, you can make your own judgment about that. Anna Alminova coming back, running a super fast 3:57.65. It is the fastest in the world this year by almost 2 seconds. And they couldn't live with her over that last 300, Tim. What do you make of that?
Well, I'm not seeing such a dominant run since a whole bunch of Russians who are winning world titles, breaking world indoor records 2 or 3 years back, Stephen. We all know what happened to them. That was very impressive indeed. And as you say, she hardly looked out of breath there. 3:57, I think that's the fastest time in the world for a couple of years. Certainly the fastest in the world this year. It's a new personal best for the Russian. That's a very strong field. Lisa Dobryski's a quick finisher, saved it for the last 200 meters, but couldn't make any impression at all on the Russian. So a fabulous run from Alminova. And I tell you what, I think the odds you'd get for her for winning the European title in Barcelona wouldn't really be worth looking at.
Well, there are national records, personal best galore behind her, but let's just for a moment break off and have a look at La Villenie in the pole vault.
Well, I think he's being a little ambitious here as Renaud La Villenie. 6 meters and 7 centimeters the bar is at. This would make him the 2nd highest jumper in history. Sergei Bubka's world record still way out there in the stratosphere, 6 meters 14. That was back in 1994, and it's going to stay there for many years yet, I suspect. I'm a bit puzzled about the height, 6.07, the significance of it, because Tarasov is the second highest jumper in history with 6.05, Maxim Tarasov of Russia. This wouldn't be a personal best. I don't think will be a meeting record. No, it'll be a meeting record by many centimeters. It won't be a French record, or it would, but by many centimeters. So the height puzzles me a little bit. But hey, if you're going to get 6.06 to become the number 2 all time, why not put it up to 6.07?
Vlasic in the high jump, 2 meters 4. No, not this time. That was her final attempt. Well, it's been another good evening for Vlasic. When it looked for a little while as though she might lose this one at 198, she got her act together, cleared 2 meters and 2 meters 2 at the first attempt. Howard Lowe couldn't respond, and so the win goes to Vlasic as we move back to the other side of the arena, and the crowd all eyes on La Villenie.
As I said, 6.07 bar set at the Frenchman's lifetime best. Is 6.01 from last year. Clearly he believes it. The crowd believe it. But no. Credit to him for really attacking it, but that wasn't close. It wasn't a tired looking jump, it just looked like a man trying to take on something that was way beyond him, quite frankly. He's only 1.76 m. He's relatively small by pole vault standards. So I'm walking around the hotel last night with looked like a group of his mates that have just come with him for the crack.
Well, we saw actually the best jumps in the long jump earlier on, and it was a competition in which we saw the winning jump from Brittany Reese, and third place was actually Savine, who started the competition well and was at one point looking as though she might take it. She had jumped out to 6.73 in the third round, the triple jumper, former world champion, and Savine ahead of what was a really congested bunch in the sort of 4th, 5th, 6th positions. As I said, for a while it looked as though she might lead it. Well, that 6.73 was equalled by Gomes in the, I'm just watching down on the computer here, it was actually the third round, and she equalled it. And then on count back, the 6th round had a 6.66, which meant she would take the 2nd place. So quite a long time ago, but just got an opportunity as we were waiting for the 100 meters. Of course, Usain Bolt to catch up on some of the field events from early on, and we saw Brittany Reese, who saved it till the very end. It wasn't the best of long jump competitions. The wind was pretty much in their favour most of the time. Well, I hesitate to call it a wind, it was a slight breeze, and as we said earlier on, she went out at 6.79 in this final round and stole it away from the other two, if you like, just by 6 centimetres. So victory for the American, which I think she was very pleased with, after having, you can see there, was really struggling in the middle of the competition. Well, here is the tidied up result of that women's 1500. A new world lead, 3:57.65. A new personal best for Kristen Worth Thomas, another person under 4 minutes. Even Steph Twell there in 8th. I'm sorry that moved on so quickly for a season best. I can tell you that Lisa Dobrisky was in 4th place, because there was a new French record just ahead of her for Deniba. And again, getting under 4 minutes. Superb performance from her. Dobrisky just pipped on the line. Well, these are the standings, the overall standings so far in the women's 1500 in the diamond race. Langat, who wasn't here today, and Burka, who fell away after starting very quickly, still the top 2 positions.
Well, you can see the athletes down there, send her a picture, getting ready for the next event. The men's 100 metres, Usain Bolt, the world record holder, the Olympic champion, the world champion, goes in lane 4. Beside him, the youngster Christophe Lemaitre, just 20 years old, and the first Caucasian to break the 10-second barrier last week in the French Championships. And the other side of the young Frenchman, Asafa Powell, the 3rd fastest man in history. Powell, who's having a wonderful season. He leads the Diamond League rankings, as you can see from that diamond to the right of picture. But this, one of the great clashes of the season. Last week, Powell was beaten by Tyson Gay in Gateshead in the northeast of England, both of them well under 10 seconds. I can tell you that 7 men in this field have broken 10 seconds.
Well, the French I've had a pretty good evening so far. Just had a new French record in the women's 1500 metres. And Le Villani, well, is this just fantasy land here for the Frenchman? 6 metres and 7 centimetres. This is his third attempt. He's in the form of his life at the moment. Win after win after win. How high can he go here? Le Villani, no. Well, it was maybe asking a little too much, of course. Trying to be inspired in front of his home crowd, but he has the win. 5.91, his best clearance. Now back to this men's 100 metres.
Well, Trell Kimmins goes in lane 1 for the USA. He was 4th in the World Indoor Championships, over 60 metres earlier in the summer. Good start to the 25-year-old, but only 4th in Gateshead last week over 100. He was recently 2nd in the American Championships as well, but lane 1, not a great draw. He's never broken 10 seconds. Gerandi Martina of the Dutch Antilles, the Olympic 4th placer in Beijing. 2nd in Lausanne in a personal best last week. Then Johan Blake goes in lane 3. The Jamaican is only 20 years old. 2nd in Lausanne at 100. There is Bolt. World record holder at 100 and 200 metres. Look at that vest. He's recently launched a rather natty line of clothing, as you can see. 3 gold medals in Beijing, 3 gold medals in Berlin last summer. Beside him, the darling of the French crowd. Listen to that roar in the Stade de France. In lane 5, Christophe Lemaitre. His first ever visit to this stadium kicked off about an hour ago with a DNF in the relay. There's Asafa Powell. He's lost weight, he says. He was full started and disqualified in the 2003 World Championships here, Powell, but he's a different athlete now. In lane 7, Daniel Bailey of Antigua, milking it for all he can. 4th in the World Championships last year. Not to be discounted, he's a 9.91 man at his best. Marshall Banjoc of France, he's the French number 2, 2nd in their championships to Christophe Lemaitre. He goes in lane 8, the Mediterranean Games champion of last year. And it looks like Ronald Pognon, who was due to be in lane 9, is a non-starter. He did look injured in that relay earlier on, but there is Bolt. As you can see, that's a new strip for the Jamaican, unbeaten at 100 metres for 13 successive finals up to Lausanne. Just a week or so back, unbeaten at 200 metres since Brussels 2007, can you believe? How close can Powell get to him tonight? The young Frenchman Lemaitre there, last to go down between the 2 big Jamaicans. That line up once again from the far side. Kimmins to the right of picture in 1, Martina in 2, and the yellow is Blake. There's Bolt, he's in 4, Lemaitre in 5, Powell is in 6, Bailey in 7, Banjoc in 8. And what will Lemaitre make of this sandwich between the 2 massive Jamaicans there in white? Good start from Bolt. Lemaitre with a lot to do. Looks like a boy amongst men. Here comes Bolt. Powell trying to go with him. Good run this from Blake, but Bolt's going to take it by a metre. Powell 2nd, Blake 3rd. I think on the near side, Bailey got 4th. Winning time 9.83. It's a new meeting record into a slight headwind. It's not the fastest time in the world this year. That's a 9.82 by Powell and Bolt himself. But he won pretty convincingly there, Usain Bolt. He knew he'd got it in the bag after about 50 metres, I think. He had a good start, Steve. Lemaitre had a terrible start. I think the nerves may be getting to the youngster, who remains perhaps a joint favourite for that European title. We'll see how the times come out from that one. But 9.84 is confirmed there for Usain Bolt. Still a new meeting record. 1, 2, 3 for Jamaica. Bolt, Powell and Blake.
Well, if you don't mind the pun, given his dispute with London at the moment, I don't think he was taxed too much there, Tim. He didn't get the best of starts. I thought Powell got a slightly better start, and I'm just not sure here how much he's really opening up. It doesn't look as though he had to make too much effort to get past Powell. They're pretty much even through the first 50. Not a bad start from Bolt. I don't think he's firing on all cylinders just at this point. He's doing enough to get past Powell, then he can sort of ease back a little bit. I don't know, maybe he was taxed a little bit more, as it were. He's the start that we've come to know from him now. You're absolutely right about Lemaitre. He looks a sort of rabbit in the headlights a little bit at the moment, but these two, we know how well Powell is running. He is running exceptionally well. Of course, lost out to Gay himself last week. Bolt this time, I think we're going to have to wait. We're just going to have to be patient with Bolt. You can't expect fireworks every single time he runs, you know. He's such a big draw, so much expectation for him. He's playing the PR game. He's got the Paris shirt on there. He's got to do all of that because that's what people want. And sometimes it's hard to then come and perform at the highest level all of the time. He has so much expectation on his shoulders. And you know, we have to allow for the fact that, oh dear me. Well, that one will end up on YouTube somewhere. That cameraman will become famous. But you know, Tim, he can't just keep running super fast all the time. And let's not forget, this is still 9.83. I mean, that is quick by anybody's standards. But let's hand it to Powell and Bailey. You know, they're running well here and keeping them close, keeping it competitive.
I guess what we know as a result of tonight is who the world number 3 is, and that's Assefa Powell, because he's beaten by Bolt, he's been beaten by Gay. What we don't know is who is the world number 1. Despite this win from Bolt that you're watching, Tyson Gay looked pretty impressive in Gateshead, and he too has had his injury problems recently. So Gay against Bolt is the one we want to see. Where's it going to happen? That's what I want to know.
You know, sometimes when you watch Buzz, the good slow-mo here, when you know that this start, it almost looks like, we've talked about it before, how he drags his toes, but you know, he's got these big levers to get moving through, and actually that's what's been working for Bolt. That start is something which obviously worked on so much, which improved him so much at 100 metres as well. And I think it's more his sort of general shape at the minute, probably a little bit of state of mind as well, which, as I said, we'll have to wait for the real fireworks later in the season.
Usain Bolt then 9.84 to win that 100 metres in a new meeting record. Second place Powell, third place Blake, a 1-2-3 for Jamaica tonight. Powell still leads the Diamond League rankings from Thompson. Bolt now into third place with tonight's 4 points. Well, I didn't think he got too bad a start, Steve. You said he thought Powell got a better start, but for Bolt's never been the greatest of starters. For a big man, he's a very good starter, but he's not bullet fast out of the blocks, and I wonder whether or not maybe over 60 metres he'd get found out indoors, but he just doesn't bother with indoors.
No, you're right, it's too much of a risk, isn't it? Because, you know, indoors it is all about the start, and, you know, he's got the ability and normally is in front by 60 metres just about, and that's when he sort of really dominates and pulls away when he's going well. But no, I don't think there's much wrong with that at all. I just think, you know, Bolt was with him and he was right there up to about 50. Powell was right with him, right to about 50, and then he just has the ability to just keep going away, which the others obviously don't have. So, you know, let's just accept the fact that Bolt, you know, despite what everybody would like to see and see him running, you know, 9.6 etc. all the time, then he's not going to do that. There's nothing wrong with 9.84 tonight. Good high jump though, Tim.
Great high jump tonight, yes, and third place going to Svetlana Shkalina of Russia, 1.96 m. That was a third-time clearance for Shkalina. She had 3 attempts at 1.98, but it wasn't to be for her on this occasion. Shantae Lowe, tasting defeat. Hasn't had too many opportunities for that this summer. The American record holder clearing 2 metres, but at the second attempt, and she'd already seen Vlasic go clear first time. One of the great head-to-heads on the field seen for this year. She's had a wonderful summer and it will continue, but tonight she had to give best to Blanka Vlasic of Croatia, who is the world indoor and outdoor champion after all. Cleared 2 metres first time, cleared 2.02 first time, and then 3 attempts at 2.04. None of them particularly convincing, it has to be said, but maximum Diamond League points for Blanka Vlasic here tonight to go with her wins so far in Doha, Oslo and Rome, and she dominates this event, does the Croatian. Crowd loved it, she loved it, and she's gradually finding that ball.
Well, somebody else who's been dominating will be the man we see who won the pole vault. It was a competition which, well, the minor places were going to be scrapped over because Hooker, Steve Hooker, Olympic champion, world champion, etc., went out very early on. So third place went to Mazurek from Ukraine. His clearance of 5.70 at the third attempt after having had 3 attempts to get over 5.60, secured him third spot. And by contrast, Derek Miles, who'd had second attempt clearances at 5.40, 5.60. The American then again needed 2 attempts at 5.70. good enough for second place, but the pair of them were in a different competition really to the man who has dominated all season. It's 9 out of 9 for Le Villenie. Renaud Le Villenie, darling of the French crowd, will be heading off to Barcelona as a red-hot favourite to take the gold medal at the European Championships, and once again put paid to Steve Hooker and the rest of the field. I don't think Hooker, even at his very best, might be able to get past this man, and Hooker would literally have to be at his very best, because Le Villenie, you just feel, can go higher and higher. 5.91 was all that was required tonight. He had 3 goals at 6 meters 7. Wasn't needed.
While in the javelin, Tero Pitkämäki, the twice world champion, could finish only in 3rd place. His opening effort was his best, 83 meters 33 for the Finn. It's a relatively below par performance for Pitkämäki. He's thrown almost 87 meters this year, and he's a 91.5 meter thrower at his best. Second place went to another Finn, Teemu Räikälä, former European junior champion. Tonight, in the 6th and final round, 83.77 to defeat his compatriot Pitkämäki by just 44 centimetres and take second place in Diamond League points. The series was none too impressive. A couple of throws down the 78-metre range. This man, though, Andreas Thorkildsen, maintains his unbeaten run. 87 meters 50 in round 4. He passed on the 5th and 6th rounds. I hope he's not struggling with an injury of any kind here. He tops the world rankings, does Thorkildsen, and that is his 5th consecutive Diamond League win in a row. 87.50 in round 4 to win by almost 4 meters in Paris.
He's had 1 or 2 problems, hasn't he, with that groin, I think, during the season, but looked all right, and certainly no problems at all, and he's staying fit and healthy. Of course, missed a few weeks, picked up Achilles injury, and now looking pretty much getting back to his best, Usain Bolt. Not quite the best that we saw in Beijing and we saw in Berlin at the World Championships, but certainly as far as 2010 is concerned.
Well, it's been a very sound meeting indeed here in the Stade de France. Usain Bolt, Kaki Kamis, Oliver, winners on the track. Thorkildsen dominant in that javelin, and the women's side, Felix, a very clever win from her in the 200 metres, way ahead of the competition. Alminova, the fastest time in the world this year. Vlasic in the high jump, defeating Lowe on this occasion. And others amongst winners tonight. Warner setting a world best in the 400 metres, 44.5. Kipruto, world best in the steeplechase. There were great performances wherever you looked at, frankly, here tonight.
Well, really one event just to tidy up. It's the men's triple jump. David Girault has won this one. 17.49 he went out to in the 5th round. This is his final jump of the competition, the final jump. He's already won it. Philip Sidowu, 4th, 17.20. Didn't jump the last 3 rounds. Second place, sorry, because Nechov in 3rd place. Capello taking 2nd, and this man totally dominant here. 17.45. Capello put him under some pressure in the 4th round, but he responded in the 5th. No jump here in the 6th, but he wins by 4 centimetres. 17.49, as I said, from David Girault. So Cuba 1 and 2. Well, that was live, and as I've just given you the whole result, guess what's going to happen? We're going to show you it all, Tim, just to make sure I was correct. So here we go again, and we can actually see Kuznetsov. He, in the 2nd round, we'd seen Philip Sidowu jump 17.20 in the 1st, and then Kuznetsov went beyond that. He'd had a no jump in the 1st. 2nd round, just going a centimetre beyond Sidowu, which pushed him out of the top 3. So 17.21 for the Ukrainian. Wasn't able to get close to that until the final round when he jumped 17.12. So it was good enough, though, to keep him in that 3rd spot. I mentioned Adowu. He really fell apart after this 2nd round. He jumped 15.86 in the 3rd, and then had 3 no jumps, and I think he may well have passed later on in the competition while everything else was going on. Difficult to keep track. But this man, Alexis Capello, who I think is a real talent, real rangy triple jumper, and he thought just for a second that he might have stolen this one. In the 4th round, went out to 17.45, which at that point improved his 3rd round jump by 3 centimetres, and he was in the lead, and his teammate Girault was a few centimetres behind at 17:35. And just for a few minutes he might have thought, right, this one's mine. But then came the response. Pretty good conditions they'd had. That slight breeze that was following down into the home straight. Giralt, well, we saw in the final round it wasn't needed. The fifth round, 17:49, his winning jump in the fifth. Such a good competition. Of course, the news of Teddy Tamgo, if you haven't missed it, or you did miss it earlier on, was that injury kept him out of this competition and may well keep him out of the European Championships in Barcelona. No Christian Olsen here tonight, and of course triple jumping in Europe, very strong, but tonight it was all about Cuba. And that was Giralt. He had one huge jump in the third round, I think it was, which was a no jump, which he got really excited about. But this one made him happy enough as it was in the fifth round. So they, of course, will, after Monaco, will have a little bit of a break while the European Championships take place, and then I'm sure battle will be rejoined with the Diamond League circuit after the European Championships. Season's best then for Giralt.
Well, what an evening it's been. The Samsung Diamond League in Paris has indeed served up a feast of our top athletics this evening. 4 world bests, all on the track.